Hey everybody, it's Joe. Welcome back to another episode of the Saab Doctor. This episode, we are putting back together the 9.3 convertible after its accident. Stay tuned. Before I start putting the car back together, I want to take a second, thank Saab Parts for sponsoring this series. Everything that they've done for the channel, I really appreciate. If you have any questions, esaabparts.com is the place to buy your OE Saab parts. Okay, so let's get to work on this car. So what we're going to be doing tonight is I need to jack up the car, replace the inner fender liner on the passenger side, replace a couple things, and install the bumper. Now, I did make one mistake. I thought that I was recording this, but I obviously didn't hit the record button. I put the front bumper all back together, so it's got the upper and lower grills, the fog lights, all that stuff. All those things just snap in place anyways, so that's not a huge deal, but I know some people like to see that. Unfortunately, I didn't hit the record button. Sorry. But let's get to jacking the car up and getting that wheel off. Just so you know, a lot of this episode is probably going to be, a montage, so enjoy. Okay, so once you have the wheel off, you've got a couple of 8mm here and here. You've got these plastic nuts here, there, and there. Those are all 10 mils. Sometimes there's one up here. It's not always there, especially in these cars once they've aged. And since everything else is off, that's it. Normally you'd have a couple in here, but you can see, well, that's all gone because that broke during the accident. So we're replacing this because this chunk is missing. So, yeah, let's get to it. Okay, now that's one thing that happens a lot. These will just break off. The fortunate thing is you don't need all of them. Normally there's also one screw. Normally there's also one right. So honestly, normally if you're in here, just do a SERP belt quick, nice and easy. The SERP belt is right there. This belt is pretty fresh yet, so I'm gonna leave that one in there. Super easy to put that back in. If you broke a few of these off, just put the ones back on that you did not break off. And it's funny because I actually made a comment about this one being missing, and that's because there's no bumper on. So yeah, don't put this one back in till the bumper is back on. Alright, so that's back in. So now we're going to concentrate on putting in some of the ancillary parts before we put the bumper back on. Alright, these side bumper supports are super easy to put back on. Alright, so next what we're going to do is we're going to put the lip on the bumper off of the car. Now this is something where you can put it on, put it on the bumper while it's on the car. I personally prefer to put it on while it's off the car, even though it gives me a bit of anxiety because I feel like I might end up scratching it up, which hopefully I won't, because if I do, my wife's not going to be very happy because it's her car. And she's a bit of a perfectionist, which is perfectly fine, because I can be too. So anyways, let's get that lip on that bumper and then get the bumper on the car. Alright, now one of the reasons why I like installing the lip off the car is because not only can you make sure your flex additive is working, that you put the right amount in, But you can also make sure that all the clips are fully engaged. I knock on wood, don't have any actual wood nearby, have never lost a front lip off a car. Now of course, now that I've said that, I'll probably lose this one, which will completely suck. But the lip is on. I'm going to go back through and check all those tabs one more time. We're going to put it on the car. But before we put it on the car, let's just oogle at it for a second. Now it's not 100% clean because it still has a bit, a bit of grime on it from all the wet sanding and whatnot that they did. And the grill was never actually cleaned, but that'll get cleaned once it's on the car. And yes, before anyone says it, we did go for the bumper with the washer nozzles to stay original to the car. Alright, now one thing I personally like doing first, and you don't have to do this step first, but I like putting in the undertray before putting the bumper on, just because of how it hooks in there. This will make it a whole lot easier, in my opinion, to get everything lined up and correct. And here is another shout out to Matt at Saab Parts. He's kind of thought of everything. When I went to order the bumper and everything, and he put the, helped me put the order together, he made sure that I'd have enough of both screws and all the extra bits, the speed nuts, so that way everything goes together quick, easy, OEM. That way I don't have to, go to the hardware store, get a whole bunch of stuff that don't match. So thanks again, Matt. Now to install this under tray, you actually take it, you have to slip it past and then back over the tabs, and then put a couple of screws in either side. And I don't snug those up until I have it all together. So you put a couple of screws in right here. And this side I actually need to put another speed nut on because it only has one of the two. And when it slips back over is there's a tab right back here on the end of this plastic piece that we just put on. Now, I apologize for having the camera over there and not doing multiple angles. I truly do need to buy a new GoPro because I lost mine like about a year ago. Oops. Alright, now I'm actually going to take these, now that this is up, and I'm going to tighten these down on both sides. And I'm also going to take and I'm going to put in the ones that go in the fender wells on both sides. There's actually one that I missed, and it goes back here near that flap you put on. So, I'll only be honest, sometimes when there's extra holes from the factory and there aren't screws in them, I still put the screws back in there because it makes for a better install. I'm going to make sure to do that on both sides. Then last but not least, I'm going to put in the two fender wells. Or the two fender well screws, I should say. Now with the undertray in, with all the sides, all the supports and everything in, I can put the bumper on. I'm going to put the foam on first, then I'm going to put the bumper on over it. I'll use the plastic tabs on the top to hold it in while I adjust everything on the sides and whatnot. So I'm going to kind of zoom out and let's get it done. bumper is about 90% lined up. I'm going to put in the speed nuts on the sides so I can kind of, run a screw or two in the fender liner to get this lined up a little bit more, and then I'm going to do the ones underneath. Alright, let me pop in these in the top quick. Then after that, I'm going to go underneath and make sure that all the bottom ones are done. And then it's back together. I mean, minus that wheel. Alright, so the battery on the camera died because I wasn't paying attention to whether it was playing or not. However, you didn't miss much. All I did was make sure all the screws were tightened and put a wheel back on. But the car looks amazing. Hang on, let's check it out. Everything fits right, no gap problems. Everything is just as it should be. I'm very, very happy about that. This is why we use OE parts and why I always use new parts. Because that way you're not going to have fitment issues. So, that's it. Lime Yellow Convertible is back together. Now just so you know, the next handful of episodes that are going to be coming out, I'm actually editing a bunch of stuff from this past winter. So you're not going to have any brand new content. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know that all this stuff happened. There's going to be some 9.3 axle rear building, brakes, 9.4X rear differential. There's just a handful of things. The 9.7X video is going to come out. I might do a quick fleet update. I just have a ton of videos to edit. I'm going to edit all of those. I'm going to try and get caught up. And it's just been a whirlwind of a year for me. There's just been so much stuff going on. I'm not going to even get into that. I've already done that. You all already know, and if you don't, go back a few episodes and you'll see. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. A huge, 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 huge thank you to Matt at Saab Parts for sponsoring this rebuild. And just remember, if you need parts, call Matt. Go on his website, esaabparts.com. Thanks for tuning in, and Saab on, folks.